Yep. And what does Cash Life have to say about 3 things you want to learn?
Since we are doing streaming stuff, I think we would love to know more about how to control the streaming along with the videos.
3 things we want to learn. Hey. How to control, how to work with WebRTC?
Hacking with third-party stuff to work with the Rails website.
Third party, what are you talking about, WebRTC?
Yeah.
Alright, to work with Rails WebSocket. Alright, next. Your team is going to be next. Okay, nested form.
Yeah, this nested form, validation and like inverse relationship stuff that you showed us.
Uh-huh.
We can sort of copy what you showed us, but at least myself, I don't understand why.
Right.
So that's important to me.
Okay. Notification. Oh, push notification on the web.
Yeah.
All right, next team. Your team name, please. And what's your what are 3 things we want to learn? Authorization. Job scheduling. Okay, client side validation. Right? With JavaScript. All right, next team. Team 5, group 5. Can you come up with a team name? Soon. Okay, 3 things. They were really fast. Single table inheritance. And then how to create okay, login form via JavaScript. What? Dollar? Row? Role. Okay, user roles, right? So this is access control. So okay, so that's similar to authorization, right? Okay, next group. Huh? All right. What do super team have? Slackbot. I just deleted that lab. Or any bad. Okay. Upload and video, audio. Advanced search. All right. Next team. What's the name? Soccer challenge. Okay. On Rails. Okay. Model relationship. What is it about model relationship that you like to know more? Has many through, or just designing schema in general? More practice on schema design. Yeah.
And
Responsive design. Okay. Is that it? All right. Let's go through each one of them. Let's go through each one of them. I wonder if I can get, for each one of them, I get a show of hand. If you interest, give me the interest level, all right? This means 0 interest, this means all interest, this means whatever. Yeah? Okay, WebRTC. Come on, all hands. What is this? Are you a chicken? Where's the hand? So you can do this. So when I feel all the wind, it means I shouldn't care. I'm feeling it. But look at those two hands over there. Okay, web RTC.
No one can see Tom.
Yeah. Tom? Okay. Alright, so I wanna keep some of the important items up here, okay? So maybe there's a candidate for that, web RTC. Nested forms. Did we learn that in class already? 1, 2, 3. Nested form. Not interested is a fist. Fanning is it's okay. I don't know, like anything. Yeah, you that's your idea. Well, what are you guys doing there? And then
3 ideas.
okay, and then this means I really want it. Yeah, I want to be this one to get covered. Now I did mention it, right? I think this one just very quickly. What do you know about nested form? Very quickly, you know. You know, nested first, yes. One thing is declaring the resources, right? So maybe you say here resources post, right? Now form for is something that's really tricky for people, right? Now anything here normally single form is something like this. Nested form, we tend to use this convention, right? Or we use, you know, of course, if you don't, then you can just say something like this. It's the same thing, right? Or sometimes you see it like this. User, and then something like user.post.build. Just one of them. That's the lazy way. It's not as good because it's not clear. You could put in too much logic in there. Okay? How does Rails know where to submit the form to? So Rails have a method called URL for, and it will run that on this object you pass to the form. So when you say URL for user, then this will go to, depending on whether the user is, you know, it's a new or not new, right? So when you go URL for user and with the method that is get, then it generates this path for you. Okay, so Rails has this URL for method. So when you do URL for user, comma post, what do you think this will give you? It's a post. So if it's a post request, then it go to user / whatever user ID is. Now you know the colon thing is a param, right? So I can just say 1, 2, 3 here, and then this will post to the sort of the index path, but it's a create action. But if it's an update, right, then it's a patch to this, but then this is the ID of the post object. Okay, so I mentioned URL for so that there's this magic that you see often. Link to, you can say link to user, right? So you can say link to username, user. So Rails use URL for on the second object. That's how it knows where to go. So you can actually see, whoops. Technically, if you want to show somehow link, let me ask you, okay? So if I have user ID 1, all right, name, username, admin, something like that. Well, nowadays we don't use username, we use email, right? This is more unique and everyone will know what it is. And then I have a post that is a post, user ID is that, you know, and maybe title is hello, okay? Now let me ask you now here, if I say link to post.title, if I want to link to this post, if I use the above routes, what do I put in here? What do I put in here? You can say user birth path, right? and then you pass in user and post. Does that one make sense? Because it will give you users ID 1 and then post. Maybe this post ID is 1 2 3. Then it will go to 1 2 3. Does it make sense? So, but there's a shorter way. You know how normally you say user path, and then there's a shorter way. There's a shorter way. You can just pass user and post like that. Yeah. So that's the idea. It's the convenience of routes. Does that one make sense?
But what if, in this example, you want to make a form that will create a user and create user's first post in one single place?
Correct. So now, when I explain, so this first is important to understand the path where it submit to.
Okay.
So from now on, if you put in anything here, if you have to use nested form or nested resources, you're not afraid to, to do that. Put two things in form 4. There's another scenario, however, is creating nested, objects. So let's say if I have like you say, user can create the first post when you create the user, right? Let's use another example. If I create user and maybe this user has an organization.
Yeah, you can create like a store and the first product.
Okay.
Something like
All right. So let's say store and first product. Store and first product, right? So we're cheating here because it's related to their work, right? So technically here you actually do something like store.new maybe. So maybe I have this in my controller. I have store is store.new, and then down here, notice I only have one object here, but I'm just creating something inside. So let's say here is field. I'm using slim now. It's just easier to read. Is that okay? So slim will be like that's a form display like that. This will be your f dot field 4 name. And this is the tricky part, right? Because you have your store in here, you has many products. Okay, so this is your controller. So let's say this is your controller, def I don't know, new. This is your controller. Now who knows how to create a store? Let's say in this case I want the user to give me the first 3 products in a store. So you use the fields for thing, right? So you say f.fields for products. So this is something that you shouldn't be afraid to look up the API to see what fields for does. The problem is there are a few cases how to use fields for. So in this case, sometimes maybe some people use FF or fields, up to you. Obviously, okay. And then let's say a product, there's a name, right? This is, no one correct me, come on guys, don't be too lazy there. Does this one make sense? So what does this one do? The fields for with a colon name. All it does is, the first line text field name is just input, name is store name. That's the input, right? Value is whatever the value you want the store name to be, right? Sometimes you may have the placeholder value, right? This is HTML. You're now pretty comfortable, right? And store name. Or you can use a label for this input. What's the second line? What does it do? Input, name is store, and then products, and then name, like that. So it just does it once because you call fields for and it does it once. that okay? Now, what if someone write like this? Similar but then you say fields for store.products. How many times will it render? How many times? Yeah, 0. Because you have no products yet. That's why you see sometimes in the controller, yeah, controller, you actually do something like store and then you say store.products build, and then maybe if you do want to do it to have 3 products, then you just say build 3 times. And then now down here it's like running the above 3 times. Huh? But that's because why? When Rails detect this is an array, it will do store.products.each and then do field for each one of them. Okay? But here's the problem. What if I'm editing a product with some stores? So each product already have some ID in it. So technically, my form for if I want it to be really good, right? I need something like field dot. Maybe it's stored in there, hidden field, you know. There's an ID in there. So it's just like submit it back. So it knows you're changing the name of the first product. You're changing the name of the second product. Otherwise, how do I know, right? So if you do this, then in the controller, I can find the right product and I can change the name for that product. This only makes sense for an existing store. So this makes sense for, you know, if you have, that is the third use case. If I copy these guys, I copy these guys right here. The third case is actually for editing a store, right? So there will be an update. So find what params ID, and in this case you only need to do this if store.products size is 0, right? Or you say empty. Otherwise just display it, or maybe you can display one extra empty field only do it once. So maybe I say if the product is empty, I display 3 empty fields for you to enter the product. If the product is not empty, you already have 2 products. Maybe I only show you 1 more. Yeah? So that's the idea. So technically, this is one way people do it, right? If empty, if another way, people always give one extra that build, always one extra empty store in case you want to do it, and then you can save. All right. The cool thing here is now you can pass in the ID, right? Why don't we need f.hidden field in here? Can someone explain to me? Why don't I need this? Why don't I need this field? Because you already have it in the form. This form now submit to form action, right? Stores, let's say 1, 2, 3 method, right? It's always method post. Although when you edit, it's actually method patch, but HTML only understand get and post. So in there, there's a hidden field that say underscore method is patch, but you don't have to worry about that. So this one, you don't need this because the ID is in the param. Everything else is in the form body, is not in the params. Does that make sense? Now this is still not good enough because in the controller, you have to take care of the logic. So that's why Rails give you one more help, which is the case of accept nested attributes for. So if you do that, maybe I can give you guys a lab on this building a survey website. This lab, you will learn this. So let's say, you know, some survey, but let's say store Now what do you have except nested attribute for products, right?
That's in the model.
Yeah. So in this case now you will see that you want to do inverse of store. It's funny, but now you need it. And then you do have class product belongs to store, right? When you have this, notice what's going to change. When you do this, okay, fields for these products, and then because you have accept nested attributes for, it now doesn't do what it normally does with field for. Input name, of course here is a type. Type is what? Text, right? Name is store product, right? And then actually it does this. Yeah? So what's interesting is normally when you submit up here, the controllers still get params. You have to whitelist this, right? Params require blah 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 permit. So when you do params require, you know, product store, and then you say permit. Let's say if you permit products, it's an array. It's a key like that. But because it's an array, you actually have to pass in the keys. So I pass in here the product name and ID like that, right? So this gives you the list of hashes. In here, then you have like, you know, ID1 name, new product name, right? ID2 name, right? Product B, something like that. And maybe there's one more that is without ID. So in this case, like ID, nothing, empty, and then product name is new, right? So that's what you get up there. Does this make sense? Why is the color so funny? Oh, I don't know. Maybe Quip is just freaking out. Yeah, nothing is wrong here, right? So this is an empty string. Okay, but down here, the difference is this one. Okay, so the difference is when you do same thing with this, now you need to do products attributes. Nested form is really confusing because you see how normally you want to allow updating a store, maybe a store name, right? So normally for any field that is what do you call that? It's a value entity. So it's like that, column name, right? But if you're submitting an array, then you can't just put that array as a phone attribute. You have to pass it to something else, right? So actually there is still a problem here. I think I'm not 100% correct. When you pass in a hash, then you pass it like this. You also pass it like this. Like this is a hash, then inside you pass in the list of keys you want to whitelist. You see how outside it's a hash, but you permit, you pass in the list of keys. So this is one key. So in the case it's a hash, you pass in this. In the case it's an array of hash, I think maybe it's the same as well. But if you run into that, just think about that. Is it a hash that you're passing, or is it an array of hash? Okay? In some cases you may only just have a hash. So just be careful there. So what is the difference? The difference is that if you do it up here, you have to do it yourself. So doing this is not exactly useful. Doing this, maybe you can pass in your, you have a method in your model to create the products yourself. But if you're doing it this way down here, then when you say store is store.find params id, store.update. It's funny because in the sample code base, people use update attributes a lot, and then over time Rails added update, so they are actually the same thing, I believe now. But so store params. This includes the product attribute, actually products attributes, and then when you save this, right? When you update this, so if this, right, it actually save all the children as well. So it knows how to handle. It knows how to handle creating new records. It's still making sense, right? But you're like, but I have like 5 empty products. When some user only enter 1. How do I only save 1 and then ignore the other 4? Have you thought about that before? Then you realize that this people have thought about it before. There's all this like reject, and then you can, I think, here you pass in the params thing, and you can check if it's blank. So for example, if in this case name, right, is blank, then reject if or something like that. I forgot, right? So you can check and see. So if it's blank, then automatically these records get discarded. They don't get saved. Does it make sense? So you will see that. I think this is something I teach in the advanced class using form and using nested form in a very comfortable way. When you become pro, you don't want to use this because it's very hard for your friend to come in and actually understand what the code is doing. When you want to become pro, you actually want to create a lot of small models, well contained. So I mentioned for sign up, maybe you create a sign up model. It's just a class. It doesn't save to the database. It's just an interface, right? You can have a create user model. You have a set up company model. It sounds a bit weird, but you wrap things up nicely and it's easy to test. However, when you start out, you try to do that, it's very time consuming and it's confusing. It's easy to make mistakes. So let's stick with the good Rails way, and then when the app becomes big, you just read on how to refactor your code and make it better. And of course, come back to me and we can chat about that. All right, web push notification. All right, show of hand. Interested? Not interested? Oh, give me some fan. All right. I actually don't know how to do this. I mean, I don't think there's a need to be honest. Every time a website asks me that, I hate you so much right now. Right? So there are 2 types, however. There is a push notification that is using the browser notification. That one I don't know. It should be really easy, right? Set up like library browser notification. And then just like your audio or the video, people can disable it, right? And then if you ask that permission immediately, people disable it. It's normally not easy to make people enable it again. You're not allowed to ask again. If people already say no, you can only display a text box and say, hey, by the way, if you ever say no, I think you said no, but go to this setting, go here, here, here. Right? You cannot give the user the option to turn it on again. Same with your mobile phone. If you say no, I don't share my location, good luck, right? The app will say, click on this link to go to your settings page so you can go there and find. Because they don't want you to abuse this, right? You have to explain very well to user why they want it. So a lot of news website, when you go there, they say, do you want this notification? And now you see it everywhere. Yes, it makes sense for Gmail, for Facebook, but it doesn't really make sense for like bbc.com and NextWeb. Who cares if you have a new article, right? Do I have to read every single article? And yet they add it, and I don't like. I hate you guys, right?
What about notification about
Correct.
what's it called? Order or something like that?
Yeah. Notification about order when the user is on that site, or is a browser notification when the user is not.
For example, I bought a product and then the order is confirmed. I want to have that confirmation as a notification.
Okay, and when the user is still on the website.
Yeah.
So for example, right, in page web notification, you see this the most on facebook.com, right? Just ding, and then you see this icon with a badge. So that one you can easily implement with WebSocket. And there should be some libraries that make it even easier. Just define a quick function to update your element. Uh, in this case, it's an icon on your page. Facebook used to do this for chat, and think and like someone's online, someone's offline, and then it became so hard because you see on Facebook page when you have a chat message, you have the pop up from the bottom, and then they used to have an online offline user bar on the right hand side, and then they have the bar at the top. So then when they have a new developer coming in, they say, oh, just update this chat notification, and it breaks, and they have bugs everywhere. And live for before then it was only 700 million people, but still, right? It's true. It was so scary that for a long time the chat interface was so bad because no one dares to make any change. You make a small change and your HTML tag might look weird, and then, or you also cannot make sure all the counter is correct, and that's why they wrote React. They're like, all this two-way binding thing is so hard, right? It was just start. They use some JavaScript, and then they say this element is bound to chat notification count, and then something else update that variable, and then the variable get updated, right? But then that element itself, if you click on it, it will the thing disappear, and then it update back. So that's a two-way binding that you see in most of web framework, client-side framework like Angular and stuff. And Facebook is like, wow, this is still very buggy. It's hard. So they came up with React, which is just one way, right? And then they started writing it again with they do that with Instagram because Instagram team joined them, and they can experiment that. So the web view, not the mobile app, they started with React to rewrite everything, and then they started building like Messenger.com and all that. Like it's more React. It's one-way binding, and it works. And, they have a lot of money, so they make the whole world use it. Even though the license to use it is really funny. So let's say if you use React and then Facebook steals something from you, you cannot sue them because you use my product, right? The license is not entirely open source and free, but because it's so useful, everyone uses it, except some other people who say, hey, look, the worst case scenario, you cannot sue them, okay? Everyone just, okay, that's okay for convenience. Someone's gonna, we still teach React stuff anyway, because I think it's quite nice. So, in-page notification, I think these things are nice to have features on the website. There's a reason we don't cover in a core syllabus, right? But let's keep in mind, right? What we want to know is what's the hardest thing in there that makes, that's really blocking you from being able to do it. Okay, so I believe if you guys want to do push notification, it's really simple. If you want to make it like when you get to the state where my notification has to affect 3 different elements on the page, and then but someone's gonna update this element, then it's really hard. Then you have to think about how to implement your client-side code more in a more clever way. But right now, I think for that chat notification, you can send socket, right? Socket can receive a JavaScript that just pop an alert. Now alert, don't just use the regular flash message alert. You can use many JavaScript libraries that's really nice, like Toaster and some others, like bing, like all these cool things. They can some can make sound, some just flash and disappear, some on the left and right. That's just JavaScript.
Do you use like alert as some kind of notification?
Yeah, I mean, but the browser alert is a little annoying, but you can start with that. Hey, your order is confirmed. Yes, okay, right? But you can use soft alert, which is all these other JavaScript library that allow you to do the fade out. Sometimes you want yes or no, sometimes you don't. Okay, and you can share that. A lot of the tools really pretty. Okay, so WebRTC, you guys have some good success, right? Like at the end of the day, yeah, it's a really cool technology, just like WebSocket. What's tricky is WebRTC is supposed to be client to client. That's why I video stream with you, and then the server is not like freaking out, getting overheated, right? But technically, to manage my interaction with you, and then I talk to team and all of this, and who talks to whom, right? There's still some small communication with the server. So keep that in mind when you read and say, what do I need to do on the server to keep track of these things. So the documentation tends to just explain that. And you may use, they say, well, you can use the WebSocket way, or there may be other way to notify the server. Okay, authorization. This one, ideally, we should teach, but at the same time, the normal use case is really simple. The hard use case is very complicated, and then we need like a much deeper discussion. So ideally, yes, in week 2, if I had more time, I would have taught it. But for your class, we were very new to Ruby, so I didn't really teach it. What have we done about authorization so far? Did anyone learn on your own? What do you use? What's that? Okay, G token, J token like that. Is it a JavaScript thing or why is it J? Oh, I don't know. Okay. So what does it do?
The probably is when you sign, we will use your user, your role, and combine with the hash key.
Okay.
Send back to you token string.
Uh-huh.
So and then you keep that token string to put on the HTTP header.
Uh-huh.
And for every time you send the request, you need to include.
Are you guys listening? Are you guys listening? No, but it's important. This is a discussion. It's not like I just give you guys information. We're doing question and answer. Right? So from what you, sorry to interrupt that, like you, what Gwen said, right, is that the user send, well, we make the client send a token in the header every time you make a web request. So I'm a little curious because I don't know why you use it, because the one, that's more authentication than authorization, right? The token, what is the token for? It's just tell this to tell the server who the user is. Now.
Who the user is and the role of the user on the system.
The role of the user, if I know who you are, why do I need you to tell me what role you have?
Maybe
I can look it up.
Yeah, because you use the user, normal user, or admin, or admin.
Right. But shouldn't that just be, role, today I want to be a student, or role, today I want to be an admin. But in the database, you are an admin, so you can do that. So whatever the token thing is not how it can solve the problem, because you cannot tell me what role you are. It should be in my database, right? However, there's a good point here. Okay, so the reason he called it a token is that maybe the server can encrypt the role, so you cannot make up the role. It's more like you actually holding the key to open the room, right? And this is like you can get in here. That's authentication. But if you can open the maybe the safe over there and there's some money inside, this is now maybe it's authorization because your key can work, right? So it's like you tap a card on the door, and some door it opens, some door it doesn't, because it can check your identity and your role, right? I think this use case it's too limited, and Rails is a lot more powerful. You don't need to use JToken, so but it's good to know.
No, but the problem here is if you want to see who are you, every time when I send a request, you need to look up the information from database. But in the JavaScript, I don't know how, but it's not use this token to send to look up in the Otherwise,
Right.
yeah, just
Yeah.
when you receive a token, is no immediately.
Correct.
You can find. Yeah.
I mean, so here is we just decide what we want to make easier. Looking at the database part, if it's really easy and straightforward, who are you? And then I can see your role column in the user table. Then why don't we do it the easy way?
But this will affect your performance.
No, it actually doesn't. I mean, they're right. So it actually doesn't if we know how to do it properly. There's a million ways to optimize it. For example, if I only have to look up once, and if I look up your role, if I know who you are, that should take. I can do like a million of that lookup in a second, right? And it's only slow. Slow here means like 1 microsecond, right? And it's considered slow, but I only have to do it once, and then after that I can maybe set it in the cookie and session. So the idea then you can pass back and forth. So yeah, so I can explain how to make this simpler. So one thing we have to remember, if you guys come from like the Java Spring, how long has Spring been around? It's been a long time, right? Some of the more complicated setup like .NET and Spring, some of them the companies use this. The technique is way too complicated. We want to simplify it, right? And then when it's simpler, we can troubleshoot, and maybe it's even more secure because if we understand it very well. So that's one technique. And then anyone else, did you apply to your app yet?
No.
Okay, good. Okay, anyone has done authorization? Authorization is like this. My learning portal. I log in, you see I see a lot more tabs. You log in, you only see one course and your content, right? Maybe I can say you can only see it this week, you cannot see next week. How can you do that? If you Google, there's I'm just gonna say don't use it, under for Rails. One of the hardest thing is you convert from, let's say, Java or anything, you come to learn a new technology. What we have to do is to unlearn as well. So in my iOS class, the people is difficult to teach. Guess who are they? The Android people, right? Because then, oh no, I have all these like I need to include all this. I need to look up a library that does something similar to it in Java. Like no, it's Swift, man. You're comparing an ugly, very intelligent but ugly, 50-year-old person to like this sexy and muscular and or maybe beautiful, 20-year-old, right? So you have to love both, but you have to unlearn the way you love this old person. I'm not saying women or men, and then you have to learn the way you love this new person. So same with Ruby. If you're in this class, you gotta love Ruby, right? But you cannot be like, I hate it. I can't, how can I make Ruby compile? How can I can only run after Ruby compile? Come on, man. We can run when Ruby is just in the air. You can just run it. Why do you care? So it's to be able to not think of because you already know some best way to do something. You're more afraid to try something that is stupid. So we have to unlearn by being willing to do something stupid in Ruby, and then we learn because these are all the fun projects, right? So remember that like Android people, only the ones who know to unlearn Android. Like I'm gonna learn iOS, but I'm gonna forget, only when needed later. But after I understand iOS, then I can apply my Android knowledge. But if you keep thinking, no, in Android, like my boss told me I have to do it this way, then good luck learning iOS. It just make you a terrible, Android, an iOS developer that way. So slow down the learning. So authorization, if you search, let me find a website. Let's say Awesome Ruby, for example. This is not the best place, but it's a good enough place, I guess. There's a website called Ruby Toolbox, but it's now too outdated. It used to be the place where I went to, but authorize, right? Oh my goodness. So, authorization. All right, left here. So you will see these things. It's I can save you guys time, and I can say a lot of the libraries you don't have to spend time checking out. They're quite bad. So out of these things, CanCan was popular in Rails 2 and 3. So Ryan Bates is this amazing guy who did a lot of Rails tasks that we have seen, and he stopped after Rails 3, right? And people still watch because it's still very good. Now people build other websites like GoRails.com, all these other Railscast websites, but no one watches them. But back when Rails was popular, every single episode was out once a week. People all watching. I was like, how did he know I want this feature? You know, this tutorial is really amazing. But then he wrote CanCan because he's like, the fuck, all this authorization framework is too bad, too stupid, so too complicated. So he made something similar. And then after Rails 4, it just stopped working. And then people said, no, this CanCan thing is really cool. So they built CanCan. Then, it's a continuation of CanCan so that it works in Rails 4. And the problem with some of the libraries that used to be popular in the past is that then you carry on all the bad things from the past. So it's cool. It's cool because you can say can question mark, right? Read post, right? So you can just say can and then pass in the object post. So it will see, are you viewing a post or you are, right? And then you calling can question mark. You're checking if you can view the code, the post, then it will check the backend logic. So that's quite cool, but that's called using DSL, domain specific language. It means because Ruby is so powerful, he writes a new language for you to learn, which is how to write authorization using this English-like language in Ruby. So of course, if you're not that good at Ruby, when you go in there and say, whoa, this is like, all this, that's cool, but I don't know how it works. So just like your feelings with aspect when you say, what the hell, describe it, should, and all these random things, it's like that. There's always more to learn. So it's cool, but it's sort of outdated by now. And the funny thing is, when you Google, you still see it, and everyone uses it. So I just say it's not the best. So there are some of this like carry on from even longer stuff. People carry knowledge from Java and all that. Actually, of course, the best things we learn actually a lot from Java because it's all very well thought out, stable system. So why is it called ACL? Access, control. I don't know. Maybe level. I don't know. What is ACL? And then again, when I see DSL, I run away. But because it's so beautiful, it's easy to make things readable. But when things don't work, you just like, is it a method? Is it a class? It's like you have no idea. It's very hard to troubleshoot. Out of these guys, declarative is a little cooler, and you may consider using it. But if you ask me, I just say use Pundit. Minimal authorization through object-oriented design. That's it. And then I forgot which is access control. I don't know, level. I don't know. All right. And then this 9, it means something else too, which I also forgot. So why is it called role? And also, you have so many names in here. So I'm gonna throw some random thing. Role based, authorization, and what do you see? Authorizes. That's pretty much it. Then you see the word ACL, DSL stuff. So the most basic app, you have a user, and then when you build your app, you have an admin column. Then you say this is true or false. Yeah, and because it's Ruby, so you can do admin like that. Because it's Ruby, right? It can convert a true/false thing into this, and that's good enough. Where if you have this, then in your maybe post application controller, you can have something called define, and make it private. Define, it's actually protected. Ruby doesn't have a real private method, so it means if you inherit this guy, you still can access it. I say require admin. Okay, so let's say if current user, of course you say how do you implement this require admin, right? Basically this method should redirect user to homepage with an error, right? If shouldn't have access, if user isn't admin, okay? Something like that. I'm sure you can write this method, right? Current user.admin question mark blah blah blah. How do you use it? In, let's say, post controller def, maybe index, like the user can see a show, right? But then here you say, what do you say? Require admin, and then here you can say post is post.all, right? Or you can learn some pagination stuff. You use the paginate, so you can say post.paginate, right? So if you use a paginate gem, then you can do something like page, params page, per, params per. And if you don't pass anything, then it will return the latest 20 records. And you can click next, next, next. It will pass in like that. So only admin can see this page. Make sense? Everyone can create a new post. So no problem. Yeah? So maybe you have a thing called mine. Who knows? Like /post/mine. How do you define that? Resources post do. Then you can say get mine or yours, depending on your user interface design. And then this is a collection method. So there's a collection or a member method. A member method can take an ID. A collection, that will be very similar to index, no ID. Does that make sense? How to do custom route? You can do a collection, do block too. So down here then, what do you have? Current user dot post, like this, right? What's missing? Before filter, right? Before action, right? Before action, it means run it before, so you can also run it here. Authenticate user. Yeah? This makes sense? So then here you say there's a bit of interesting touch here. Authenticate user means if you're not a user, it will take you to the sign in form. Sign in or sign up. Right? So the HTTP status is that you redirect. Yeah? It's temporary redirect. Is that 302? Right? So, however, up here, if the user is not admin, I'm already signed in and I access, what do you tell them? Get the fuck out. You tell them that it's access denied. So, depends. Let's say if it's index here, you can choose to just say 404 page not found. You see this with GitHub a lot. If you look at a private repo and then you go there, page not found. Right? So 404 means you cannot find the record. Some people will just say access denied, and then you can return an HTTP error if you want, or just redirect to homepage. You say, hey, go somewhere you can see. Correct? But you can see access. Okay, so let's say in show, here is a problem, right? I want to see this post, so you can only decide after you already found the post. Only admin or the owner can see this post. Make sense? So you can put up here, you can't put require user, right? And require admin because the user may be able to see it, right? So what do you do? You have to first check that, and then what do? You can implement your own authorization here, which is if current user, right, dot admin, something like that. So you still need to do authenticate user. Okay, maybe not show. This is edit. Show, maybe even guest can see it, right? Or maybe you want to show a publish post. All right. If current user is admin, then you let them see it, right? Or if current user is what? Post dot user is current user. Also, current user must not be nil, right? So that's why if post dot user is nil, current user is nil, you let the user see. Maybe that's a really bad post. you deleted some user and then everyone can see it. No, right? That's a bug. So if this happens, then you let the user see it. So I'm like, what do I put in here, right? That should just go on as normal, no problem. You can just say vendor edit. That's the default magic Rails give you. But if not, then what do? Redirect to maybe root path, and then alert. You know, you can say, if you can be specific, flash error, right? None of your business.
Do you have to put something like the edit there, or can you just say unless I'm using?
Correct. So you can remove these two lines. If you say unless, but when you switch to unless, this has to switch to unless and then your wife or your new friend come in, they're like, can you explain to me this code? Unless and then and. It's like, can you actually understand? You're like, yeah, easy, let me explain. Actually, yeah, unless, unless I eat and I go to class, like, it makes no sense. Unless and is like, it's so hard to understand. So yeah, and then like, oh, so maybe I can do unless and then or in here. And then when you read it, do you really understand? No, I don't understand. So that's why when you do unless and then there's more than one, never use unless, always use if. Okay? So then here's when you're like, my God, to know if a user can see something, I have to go into all these places. Bad. So that's why can and all these things help you solve this problem. Now I told you guys to put it here. It's easy to see. Obviously there are many ways to do things, right? Before action, you can say authenticate user only show, what is that, mine, and maybe I don't know, edit, something like that. Then you don't need this anymore. Yeah. But there's an interesting case where you can only check after you find the record. Okay, so enter Pundit. Let's see. Pundit is like, imagine in here you just say authorize post. So it looks like this. You're now class post controller with Pundit, okay? Then you say post controller and then def index, okay? So you can say authorize, something like that, and then it will check somewhere and say, oh, admin can access. If the user can access your own post, admin can access all the posts. So there may be some way to do it here. And then after that, then you can say, post equal, I don't know, this, right? Blah, blah, blah. So actually Pundit allow you to define the post as well, but this use case is a little difficult to explain. So I'll explain later. So maybe for now, authorize admin, okay? So post.all. And then in here, let's say under edit, because I need to know what it is. So post.find params ID. Then I say authorize on this post. Does that make sense? And then what would you check? If you implement your own authorize method, what will you do? This is quite easy. This authorize, you can define it in your own controller, right? What does it take? It takes maybe 1 argument or 0 argument. Yeah? And when you run this authorize method, you can still get the current user, right? So if you get an argument like post, then you check post.user against your current user method. If you get nothing, then you're like, nothing means probably I just check admin. So you can implement this easily. And then that's how you extract some, depending on the argument you put it on. There's one cool thing here. What if you can put the action name into the method? That's the beauty of Ruby, right? In some languages, you cannot just like, well, what method am I in, Write some C program and good luck trying to print like, I'm in this method.
No,
Get.
we have a method function.
correct, you have to do macro, right? And then this, and if you're, but here you can just say action name, so you can pass it in, right? Well, because the thing is, if you compile and then you run it, right, it won't know. But in this case, it's dynamic. So technically, when you call this authorize, you put it somewhere, it still know that it's inside this method. So it know the controller name, action name, object you're passing into. The object you have to pass in. So that's the beauty. You can actually extract the logic out. And remember, Rails is always like when you see controller name, action name, then it's always this RESTful action, index show, and some of that. So you can even have more convention. So let's look at Pandit. I want you to think about that before I show Pandit, because at first, if you read it, it's like super confusing. So application controller, it says include Pandit. Alright, so it means there's a module that provides a method, and there's a method called authorize. Okay? And so here just Rails generate Pandit install, it just give you the folder structure. I'll tell you what it is. It just include a folder called app/policies. Okay? So policies is like, here's the book the admin keep track of, right? What type of user you are and what pages you can have access to. So then policy is like this. I have a post policy. And each policy takes 2 arguments. By default, you don't have to pass in if you don't have to. First, it always knows the current user. So that's why you have a policy.user, right? Second, you can pass in an object if you want to check access on that object. So imagine this is your policy. This policy you pass in is just a regular Ruby object. If you pass in the user and post, then you can say, well, you can define a method same name as your action. Def update or def edit question mark, right? And in there you say, well, if the user is admin, or if the post is not published, post is not published, or user admin, what does it mean? Can we guess? Like, update means, okay, if the post is not published, then you can see. That's kind of weird, huh? I don't know why. Maybe we should make a pull request. This readme file is wrong. I can update this post if I am an admin, or the post is not published. That sounds wrong. Okay, but that's the idea, right? Now, but then you end up doing this all a lot. Remember, we have application controller and then user controller. User controller inherit from application controller. It's the same. Why don't we have something that is abstraction of that? Then we have something called application policy. In that application policy, this is called a record and this is called a user. So this record in the post controller, it's called a record is a post, but maybe in the store controller, a record is a store. It's automatically passed to you. Isn't that nice? So you can use it. So let's say, how can you use it in your application code? So you can say find it and then you say authorize post. So when you say authorize post, it also passes the current user and then it passes post. This post will go into this post policy and become the record. Ruby implement. So if you read this code, it's really easy to understand after you try implementing that. Okay, so it's very similar to the code I wrote, right? Except all the logic who can access this post is just in one line, and it goes to the policy file. And then you want to be disciplined enough. Where is the file that tells me who can access a store or anything related to store? It's in store policy. So maybe in soccer challenge, you have a team policy, you have a soccer field policy. Of course, you can name anything, but if you name it after the model, it helps you get started more easily, right? Maybe you can name it sign up policy. You can name it like, I don't know, update profile policy. But then you have to pass in more arguments. That's all. But after you only understand it. So there's a in the view, right? In the view, you could say, before I get to the view, this, let me read this one first. Rails, when you see anything in Rails, you see the word infer is like, you in post controller, you in post model, infer that is what policy it is. That's why the authorize method works, right? Authorize at post, and it automatically asks this at post object, what class are you? Post. Okay. I'll go to the post policy class. But you can actually write all out. And then you can actually say policy.new, pass in current user, pass in this object, and then you see .update question mark. When you read this, now your Ruby is getting better. You're like, okay, create a new post policy object with two thing here and then update, and then you go and read that update code. Super clear, right? This is super clear. So you can write this, unless, so here, only possible to use unless because all the logic you put in this update up there without having to use the parenthesis, right? Otherwise, this whole thing, I have to do parenthesis over here, right? But no longer need to do parenthesis because I put it in the update method. So it's cool, right? So here's that raised, so it can raise this error, raised and not authorized error. Of course, you can pass additional thing. And because it's raised in some languages like JavaScript, in Java too, you can throw. And then you catch. So in Ruby, it's raise and then you rescue. So at the controller level, you can rescue this and you can decide what to do. I rescue this funded not authorized, and then depending on your app, but it's one place where you decide. If you say redirect to homepage, if you don't raise here, on another page, you have to say redirect to homepage, redirect to homepage, and then suddenly our product manager comes in. No, don't make user redirect to the homepage. Redirect to the buy page. And you're like, yeah, that makes sense. Oh shit, I have 10 places to fix. Right? So better to raise this so the logic is there, and then you float to controller level and then you catch it. So, and when anytime you set up Pundit, you will set up that method. One second. Oh, I can't find it. Rescue. Okay. So you say rescue from, so you see in application controller, when you say rescue from that, it's raised in some action. Go to the top, catch, this application controller catch it. It will just run the method user not authorized. So under user not authorized, it's very simple. Flash, alert, blum, right? You are not authorized. And then you can say redirect back, or you can say redirect to request.referrer, the same thing. Go back to the previous page, before the page you hit. But if that page, the browser doesn't give you, then you can redirect the user to root path. Right? And then later in the future, you can say, well, depending on the URL, maybe you should take the user to the buy page. Okay, so this one is clear, right? That's rescue from. In general, in a controller, you run into things you want to rescue. What happened when you find an object and it's not found? You can actually rescue if you like. This is an amazing framework that allows you to just write code in this one place. What to do with the 404 situation. Right now, Rails give you the page you find, trying to find doesn't exist. That's it, right? But you can change it to something else. Or when the user is not admin, you can raise it. Other cases when the page crashes, like if you try to run a method, it doesn't exist, and it crashes the whole thing because nothing catches. Okay, so in the if you want some policy that's not attached to any model, then you can have something like dashboard policy and stuff. Then you can just pass in more specifically the object or the action name. In an action, in a dev show, you can pass in an action name. It's up to you, really. All of this is a simple Ruby object. Okay, so the main thing you see here is that ability to authorize, right? Sometimes You have a custom action, def publish, right? But you want to check if this person has the permission to publish. So two ways for you to define the policy. Go into post policy and define the publish question mark method. But then you're like, but the publish question mark method is the same as my update question mark method. Then you're like, okay, then you just pass it in here. So there are two ways. Okay? If you, this whole policy is whether you are a user or not, then this maybe I have a method called, did this user subscribe to this product? If yes, then I show the user the ability to edit, to show and blah, blah, blah. If not, kick the person out. So in every action, I just say authorize something product and then subscribe question mark. Then you just define that in the policy. So this is the name of the method. If you don't pass it, it will use the same name and you just add a question mark to it. That makes sense? Okay. So if it's a bit tricky, but when you learn about scope, it's quite cool where then it's this is the hard one. It's under scope and then resolve. This is how you can do, if you're an admin, I give you all the stores. If you're a moderator, I give you only the stores in New York. If you're a user, I only give you your store. That is under scope. But you don't really need it. You can also, if you, that doesn't happen very much, then under that you just authorize, make sure the user can go to that action, and then say if you define a user dot viewable stores. That's my preferred way if you don't understand this logic. So I say under user, right? Def. Remember in assignment 2 you say something like unseen messages, viewable messages. You can put the logic in there, right? You can check who you are and what stores, what products you can see. So that can be under authorization or it doesn't have to be. Up to you. Any question about authorization? There's one more thing you didn't ask. What happens in the view? Should I show this button or not? So of course you can just all this if. You can use the same thing in the view, right? This is very important, the back end, because if you don't show in the view, the person can create a button and then you click. So in the view, you can do this. If policy, it's just a helper. So easy, right? Define policy somewhere in the helper, and this helper is a method policy wrap around this post, whether you can update or not. Does that make sense? Okay, let's move on. All right, job scheduling. This one, what I can say is it's quite easy. Heroku has a scheduler. So if you create a rig task and then go to Heroku scheduler, and you can tell Heroku, you can set it to run every 5 minutes or half an hour or an hour or something. Correct. Now, if you don't use Heroku, you can use cron tab, right? If you have your server, you can just say set cron tab, and you can learn the syntax. There's a cron tab that you can just run, and again, it should be to run a rig task. Rig task is a way to just access your Rails environment and do something. Okay, update, delete all the old orders. For example, this table is too big, or unsafe orders. You save it, but you delete it. You can create that, but make sure you define that method. Maybe in your model, it's easy to test. Your rig task should be 1 line. Don't write your rig task to be 10 lines when it doesn't work. Good luck testing it. You just keep running it again. Like if you write in your model, you can go to Rails console and then change the arguments. Your rig task should just be declare a rig task and then make a call. This is a mistake a lot of people make, and make your code hard to test. Now,
But it's not possible to do, if you want to analyze some data and run some math or something like that.
No problem. Create a new model. Create a new class. Let's go analyze something, and then you when you wrote to Rails console, you can say analyze something .new and then pass in user.one. Anything else. Make it easy to write unit tests. Rig test is not easy to write unit tests for. So that's my tip for you. Keep the rig test always 1 line. Call something, and then maybe you can print something else. Rig test is something you can call your Rails call the Rails, run it, and then exit. That's why it's just like task, right? Run it and exit. So Heroku, if you go scheduler, then you can put like Rails run and Rails like task, whatever, run task, and then you can pass it in. The problem with Heroku scheduler is that you can't say every 7 minutes or every minute, or it's too limiting. It only gives you a couple of options. Yeah. So then maybe have a server and use a big task. There are many other ways. So for example, there's a thing that is called like I think Rufus. I don't like all the other options, to be honest. Like this one, I think we used it sometime in the past, and then he asked me a question about. It's like something that runs along your Rails server. It's another thread, and then it's like, is it time to run it? Is it time to run this break task? That's one way to cheat. Now this is something that opposite from Sidekick Redis that I told you guys about, right? What is Sidekick? It's an adapter to manage background jobs. Background jobs is not something I know when to run. Background job manager is that if you have something to do, like you need to send an email to that person, put it on the desk. I'll get to it, right? As soon as I'm free, taking this parcel package to someone else, I come back and then do that for you. But it's different from a reg task, a scheduled task. However, what if you schedule a task that takes 2 hours to do, like analyzing some data and stuff, but then you schedule it every hour? Then, right? So obviously then you can't just say, hey bitch, run this test. Right? You're like, hey, do this for me. What happens like, hey, I'm not done. Can you put it there? Then it becomes background task again. So in some cases, the idea of scheduling, the person's schedule doesn't run it. So the person's schedule just throw it to the background task, and then the guy's running background. I'm managing all the background tasks, and oh shoot, like there's so many people. Then I'm gonna hire more people, part-time staff, right? I scale it, but then the scheduler doesn't care, just put more stuff. So you may merge them at some point. And even, there are many other scenarios where maybe then it's not a good idea to access the database because only so many people can look into the database. Then you have to maybe clone the database to something else that cannot be read, right? That's like extra, right? View only or replica or backup. Next, client-side validation with JavaScript. This is a nice to have feature. It's getting easier and easier. You can just find libraries and stuff. So there's a guy who actually in Boston, that Brian Candarella, I met him a few times at some conferences, and he wrote a client-side JavaScript validation. He used everything, all the information from the Rails model, and automatically validate everything client-side. It's like dream come true. Obviously, doing only client-side is not good because the person can just inspect, remove, prevent this JavaScript from running, right? But if you always have to do it on the back end. Of course, if you're in a rush to demo to someone and it's not dangerous, then whatever, do it your way to show to people. Yeah. Now, client side tend to be nice to have. With turbo links, things are getting faster, right? You submit a form and you instantly get feedback. So, I don't know. You're trying to save me 1 second and you spend 3 hours doing it. I don't know if it's worth it. So, but it's very cool for things like credit card because you don't want the person to keep submitting it. And especially credit card, you buy from me, credit card is not submitting to me, submit to another guy. And if you keep submitting there, like, that guy actually doesn't like receiving your stuff. And that guy is much farther from you, right? Maybe I can optimize how fast my website is to you, but the guy maybe today has too many clients and then when you submit the credit card, it's too slow, right? There are many reasons, but credit card validation in general, backend is super slow. When it's a correct number, it takes 2 seconds. When it's not correct, it takes 3.5 seconds. Because it's like, it goes to this gateway A and then gateway B. It's like, are you sure it's not correct? And go here. So obviously you want client side. Super simple stuff like that the 8-digit add up, like does it look like a credit card number? There's a checksum and all this math into it. Yes, that helps. Submit form and stuff, yes, now that you can use HTML5 required, you can use it for email. You can check your email already. You can use it for text field, number. Why you need any extra fancy thing? It's useful if you use this for beauty. Some client-side JavaScript, they show flash and it's super nice, right? Validate password and all that is super nice. But it is tend to be a waste of time until you really want to optimize for great user experience. But yeah, so now I just use the browser thing. It's not that great, but it's a huge step forward. In the past, it's always a problem. Just 10 years ago, people double click on the buttons. Until today, people still double click on buttons, right, on the web, because it's just what I feel like doing. But then, now that it's JavaScript and browser is good enough, you can say, disable it after the user click. So many times, like 10 years ago, people click in and then they create 2 users and buy the product twice, and there's all these alerts, don't do it twice, don't click back and then click submit, and then you call customer support.
Most people still think that software is like magic.
Right.
It's not like a machine.
And then sometimes we don't think, so do something for me that I don't have to think, right? So yeah, so always try HTML5, right, first, and then also try, and also see turbolinks is fast enough, advantage, and then also finally, yes, there's some nice JavaScript validation, but you can even write your own, right? Very simple to write your own. Display this, flash this, animate this, but only for something is really important. The rest, maybe, right? Maybe set up a company name. All right. Sometimes it's both client side and server side. For example, if you sign up to Coder School, okay, and you use our email tim@coderschool.vn, that's if you sign up and I ask you to create a company, right? So your first field is name, email. Second field is company name. Third field is password. As soon as you type your tim@coderschool.vn, hey, I already know you're Coder School. Then maybe it's send back JavaScript, right? Send Ajax to the server, and server say hide the second field. Display Coder School and then hide it. Then you just enter the password. I can welcome you. Maybe then you have access to materials. If you sign in, it's like Tom at tinypulse.com, and then you have to enter the word, a new company name, and then sign in, and you can't see anything yet because I don't know who you are. I send an email and you can verify. So sometimes when you see both, right? That makes sense? Right, the form, you can be dynamic. Here's an easy one, single table inheritance. Can you tell me why you want to use it? Uh-huh. Okay, good. Give me some different kinds of user. A customer, a seller. Any other? Admin. Okay. How many common columns are there in them? Let's say, yeah, how many? How many columns do they share? Does an admin need to have an address? So technically, yes, they share some, and then some of these don't use, and then you add more columns to customer later on, and then maybe some column to admin and user. Like user, maybe you have IP and then customer address. So they're like, oh, it's so cool. I want to use single table inheritance because I can share the email and password. So the worst feature in Rails is single table inheritance. Do not use it. What is this? It say, oh, you can create a users table, and then there's a column called type, and then in there you can put customer string or user string or admin string. And now every time you do use customer.find, admin.find, user.find, you're like select star from, okay, type is admin and then ID is this. And then later on you're like, oh yeah, user 123. and then go into the database, you load, it's nil or something, because it doesn't know whether it's customer or admin. There's so much more logic you have to add, and it's way more headache, because an ID can be any of this. ID is no longer enough. You have to need type. Not just that, you set up, like you have a, let's say if you have a user as a common thing, not to mention here, a user can be a user can be a customer, a user can be an admin. Maybe you can call all three account, let's say accounts table with a type, which can be a customer or user or admin. Then you like inherit this class from this parent class, that single table inheritance. Anything you put in the account class, later on, you move it somewhere, it may break. And when you have a relationship, a customer can have many transactions. User, it's more nightmare looking at the query, and then eventually, one person will cry, and then 10 people will cry. And this is what happened to me 10 years ago, and I cried. So don't do it. All right. So anyway, just anything you do is gonna be better than this. You can create. You can name these guys account in your UI backend, everything, but then sometimes you can just have a column, like maybe the role or the type of user. Then you can just check it like that. You can create an account model. You always do account find, and then after that you can do authorization to check what kind of role they are. You can have all this as extra model that wrap around the account model. Just don't inherit. Inheritance bad. Of course, I can have another class on why object-oriented program is terrible. But that depends on there are always a lot of consequences. So, all right. So just please don't. It cost me it cost me so much pain, because I had so many users already, and refactoring it, adding every time I added custom field, like wait, it doesn't apply to the other two. Apply to this one. Oh, should I create another table? But I can't. Well, yes, I should. And then the logic is already, I have some columns in this table and then some other in this table, right? Something like customer rating, 1 to 5 is in the old original table, and then you like customer happiness or something, and you're like, if I put in here, it doesn't apply for other people, so I'll put in another table. And then your other friends coming in, the developer coming in. So yeah, I want to find rating and happiness. What? I have to select from 2 tables? Are you stupid? It's just what happens. You just keep adding more stuff. So there's a legitimate concern in any app. The user model will become very big, become a god class. Or if your product is a store or a product, and your project is on store or product, one of them will become a god class. You start to have so many models in that. There will be, that's a different technique for you to separate. You can separate, something like fast store or some complicated store, simple store. You can create more models, but it talks to that. But don't use single table inheritance. Okay? User roles, yeah, same. Now, here's something I need you guys to think about. And this one, it alone is so fascinating. Let's think about, I only taught you guys how to deal with the case where there's an admin column, right? What about, tell me some other cases that's not good enough. A user can have many roles. So some cases people do this, roles. And then maybe it's a string. Yeah? Something like admin, I don't know, stuff like there are different, either admin and like that, or some other people have like maybe moderator, right, which is just client. So let's say there are many types of role, and then up here is just an admin, but here there's one role, and then it can be one of the 3 values, right? So that's okay for now, and then that's one role. But then in this class, for example, a user, but I'm just gonna say a user can also have a TA, teaching assistant role. Make sense? Grader role. Make sense? Teacher role. Make sense? But then shit, I want to be both a grader and a TA. Then how do I do it? Oh, then it should be roles. And then you have this column that is an array. Or maybe comma separated values, CSV. here's the problem. Later on, give me all the people who have roles greater. You're like, how do I write that SQL query? Because all that it's in string and it's a little harder, right? You can't be exact. And say, go to all the people who have greater role and remove them. They're like, yeah, okay, select, and then when you go to that row and there's a TA, greater teacher, and then somehow find this text in the middle and remove it, and then, right? I said, okay, that's not fast. A lot of queries are slow. So then some people come up with something like role, but now, you can use, before you get there, role, but now if you are TA, you roll 1, okay? If you are a what? If you're a grader, roll number 2. If you're a teacher, roll number what? Are you sure?
0.
Admin. So this is similar to your Linux bash. You remember the 000 444 In Linux, 1 means you can read, 2 means you can write, 4 means you can execute or something like that, right? Yeah. Right? So when you have 4 plus 2 plus 1, then that's everything. That's 7. So you can do that, right? You can have something you add up. So then this is called bit masking. If you actually convert it, you add like this, but then it's the bits. This one is 0 1. This one is 1 0. This one is 1 0 0. This one is 1 0 0 0. And then if you put them together, you can count what bit is on. So when I need to change you from greater to be no greater, get everyone, just flip the second bit from 1 to 0. Done. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. But that doesn't solve my problem of being well, actually it does, right? Solving multiple greater thing here. It does. What can possibly be a problem? Well, no. The TA, you're not a TA in every class. You're a TA in Ruby class only. So you're a TA in Ruby class, you're a grader in React Native class, you're a teacher in iOS class. So I need to know your roles. That's when you have to have as many roles. Yeah? And in this role now, what do you think this role will be? You will have maybe this name, which is TA, teacher, grader, blah, blah, blah. And then maybe now you have group ID. And then group here will be name, which is like iOS, Android, Ruby, blah, blah, blah. You see? And then now I can have dev roles, right? But now updating the roles is getting difficult as well. That's not enough. Well, this is the roles within Coder School only. But when, let's say, I need to know whether you're teaching iOS in Hanoi or Ho Chi Minh City. So then that is under department. So Coder School will have, maybe Hanoi or Ho Chi Minh City department or Singapore, and then your division. You're talking about within the same company, okay? And then now group now need to be a department ID. And then you're like, well, should I put the department ID under role? Right? I have to, or something like that. Because otherwise, well, no need. If you put it department ID under group, then every time you look at a role, you have to like join this table and then go here. If you put department ID in here, then you can find this very fast, right? So there are, as people add this, and then people try to come up with the role-based access, they try to accommodate all of this, and it's a disaster because there's so many cases to test. So it goes back to very simple role, just string, and pretty much role will be just, maybe document ID and role. If you go to Google Docs, remember, you just click on it. Does Google ever ask what group you're in, what organization you're in? When you look at a doc, it's either outside doc or inside org, right? But inside it's just like view or edit or owner, period. And you will see this a lot because that's enough for most cases. So don't try to for your final project, if you go down to this, you're killing yourself. It go back to super simple, as keeping it simple. Now there's another app if you really want it, call the teacher, the role. There's this guy who built this cool gem. The cool thing about me teaching Ruby is that I've used all of them. I checked them, like a lot of these guys, the teacher role, like, so I can bitch about or praise these guys, right? Ruby is really cool. Authorization based on GUI. So you have someone come in and you just add role and say, well, this person can go and access this action. So you add, like, there's a role for post controller show action, and you can add it. But it becomes super, super flexible, like this. I create a role that's like pages, and then in index is true, show is true, news true, blah blah, and then this row is the string. Damn. But that's the most flexible you can go, because then you can build an UI like this. So you can create a roles list, and in this roles list, right, you can have these actions you can turn on or turn off. And then you can export them, save it, and create another department. Does this UI make sense? It's cool, right? But as soon as you save this guy, it just saves to one string. It doesn't use a bazillion tables. That's why. Keep it 2-3 tables. Never, never go past 3. Things will be crazy for you. Yeah? Simple, right? Create a rule, and you see a rule, it just saved as a string. It's a JSON string. It's only 2 level. That's the key, right? Don't go 3 level. Anything you go 3 level, you just cry, right? Like, have you tried organizing your folders in Google Drive, your computer? Once you start going past 3 folders, 4 folders, good luck finding them. But then it's really weird, because if you put it in 2 folders only, then there's too many, then you can't find them either. Right? Like, so what's the solution? Well, technically we have to clean up, like, move all these things from last year, let's move it to archive, put it somewhere else, or maybe make the name itself good enough. Name cannot be like, just the title, like Apple, right? It should be like Code the School class on Apple products. Then, if you put this Apple inside the Code the School folder, inside a class folder, and then, then with Apple, then Apple sort of doesn't make sense. So sometimes we compromise. We're like, okay, maybe it's better to just have a long string than having a short one, and then under all this nested. I think in general, routes, nested forms and all that, the nested routes, don't go to 3. Why you ever need 3? Just go back to 2 and then create more routes. Yeah? So 2 groups will hate me a lot. I'm so sorry. I have all the content available for Slack bot, Facebook bot. I've done talks on that, I have video as well. So that's not a problem. You can just reach out to me if you want. I even wrote in different lab for Slack bot. So upload and play video. I'm not sure I understand this one. So I showed how to do file upload, right? Remember file upload using S3 or PostgreSQL, like large objects. There's another one that I mentioned. It's called File Picker or FileStack.io. It used to be File Picker. That's the easiest way to cheat. Well, the free tier, you can do like 500 files. Just one line, JavaScript line. Turn your file field into, a button. You click on that button, it pop up. A pop-up like that. Then from the left, it's like Google Drive, Dropbox, YouTube. You can upload anything under the sun there. So that's one, right? You could create a video and then drag it there. That's one. Another way is to use the HTML5 video element, and it's actually really easy. If you want to do upload video or audio, it will render the element, and then you can there's a recording.js or something. So, if you can message me if you want more information, but when you click submit, it saves all of that into binary data, your audio or video, and it transfer, submit to the web. Problem is not streaming. Streaming, then you have to do more stuff. But for all of your use case, you don't have to worry. It won't be a big file like the one I have right now. You don't talk for many hours. If you talk for an hour like this, then you have to open a socket and you start to send, right, continuously, right? Or you cache it and then you send afterwards. It's a much harder problem. Advanced search, there's already a Railscast thing you can watch. Advanced search, actually, maybe if I can steal 2 minutes of your time under Awesome Ruby. This is another thing people make the wrong decision on. Authorization and advanced search, because there's so many libraries out there. And I can save you some time. Search. I couldn't talk about that last time. How do you do faster search? Well, what do you mean by advanced search? Actually, there's this.
We usually use some like name,
Okay.
but when we reverse it, the one also.
Okay, so intelligent search. So advanced search in different cases, right? For example, are you trying to search a text and you want to look at it in different columns in a table? Sometimes that's good enough. For example, you search by blog post, but blog post only, but the word you search may appear in the title or a body or in another table related to it, right? In the translation table. Some other times you actually want to search it across all the model in the website, like how you want to implement. I don't know if you browse stuff and when you search the string, it could be in the username or a blog post or it can be anything. Advanced search may also be, I want to search something from A to B, this timestamp, between this timestamp, and there's a condition. I only want to search people who have 3-star rating and above. There's a lot of advanced search stuff. So think about how you use it, right? Let's say if you only have your PostgreSQL table, your tables in PostgreSQL, you just have to know your SQL query better. And right, that's fine. Learn how to do it the ugly way. Of course, if you think, oh my god, I have like all these cases, then this doesn't work. I would advise try to use with SQL first. Learn how to write more complex SQL statement, and then move on to the more scalable way. What's the scalable way? Everything that is searchable, as soon as you update a post or a username, you save it to a different database. And that database is for search. And that's why you hear the name Elastic, Solar, things, thinking things, and all of that, right? Sunspot. So Solar Engine, Elastic Engine, Apache. So then then you have a Ruby wrapper around it. So thinking things on top of the things, full text. Sunspot on top of Solar. But what is the Elastic Ruby is on top of Elastic, and then there's some other Elastic. What is it for, right? So then you need a different table. Remember last time we had Redis? Technically, you can use Redis too, but then it's just not optimized for this purpose. So you just save things into that database, and that database can perform full text search. Redis cannot perform full text search, it's just key and value. There's some extension that make it more powerful. Elasticsearch and Sphinx. These guys, full text search is like this. If you search for the word orange, right, it may appear anywhere in the string, mainly just string all over the place. It can actually extract it out and then tell you what's before or after. Even better, you misspell the word orange. You say orange, it still can find it. Because it can draw there, it can index the word orange already, and then it finds that this word orange is just 1 degree of distance from the word orange, then it still shows you the result that you mean this. Even better, your name is like Dung, D-U-N-G with a tilde, and when you search, you type D-U-N-G down. It still can find it. If you use an extension that now when it indexes, it will try to find the version with or without. So you can draw all that tree underneath so you can find the information, right? Categorizing the information. So you're like, whoa, so is it complicated? Yes, you have to go brew, install Elasticsearch or something like set up a search server, have to run it. Remember last time we have to run Redis server? You have to run that search server, and then you have to write the thing that index, and then suddenly you go to admin, edit all these objects, delete them. What do you want to do? Each of that has to go and update the search table. There's also something, well, I do a mass update over SQL database. I'm like, whoa, if you don't do it over Ruby, the Ruby guy doesn't know to update the guy over there. Then what to do? Then you run reindex everything, right? It's like, hey, forget it. I just made some changes to the database directly. Let's run reindex and then it will reindex. So when you're still small, it's very easy. Every time you like, doesn't seem to work, I can't find my record, reindex. Right? So this library can let you do that. So when you update a post, it will update the index over there. But if you suddenly do something funky, you can say post.reindex all. Now, here's the cool thing. The reason why we use PostgreSQL is that PostgreSQL is much more powerful than the other ones you've seen, like MySQL or any other thing. PostgreSQL can do something Redis does, like key value. Even better, it can do key to value, but this value is not a string, it can be a JSON. It can be like file, it can be stuff. So that's already cool, right? Redis now just came up with Redis JSON. It's called ReJSON. It makes it really powerful. Now you can store JSON object. Before that, it's just text. Now here's another cool thing. Postgres also supports full text search. And you can tell Postgres to recognize the sign, the asterisk sign, and you can search that. So the best gem, the minimum work is called PG search here. And you can go and just do it, and it's on your same Postgres database. Work enough, good enough to work across model stuff. After you're good at this and you want to scale, then you want to deploy to Heroku, it already works by default. If you want to scale a little bit more, then you can check out some other ones, and then that require Elasticsearch or something. Then you have to install the extension, and you may have to pay for that. Yeah, so that's all. And don't try all these too fancy tools. Some tool like Rensec actually is cool because it even gives you the interface to submit a form to search by using certain syntax. So you can submit a field called greater than 10, and then it will define the value greater than 10. I really think that's too much. It just makes too much magic, and then your form is unreadable. But it's up to you, yeah. So yeah, go and read those search guides. So unfortunately, I prepare all the React stuff, all the cool stuff, Webpacker, the Rails new stuff, but I feel this may be more useful for your project. And obviously, this probably is the most boring YouTube video because there's nothing on the screen. Just us looking at each other. All right, thanks guys. One more lecture next week. I'll give you a interesting lab to do on Wednesday.